The question could be, oh, my own expertise is in democratic theory, democratic transition, and ethnic politics. So what the hell am I doing here? Well, a lot, perhaps. And so I have just been thinking about a few issues that we're going to be looking at today. And in the last couple of days, I read up and I came up with a few issues or ideas to try and share with you, and some of them you may be pretty aware of already. And so what I want to talk about today is the developing world, and perhaps the underdeveloped world, and the question of environmental sustainability. So it won't be democratic transition or theory, but rather the question of environment and how the developing world deals with that. Now, perhaps we all know or are aware of the question or the notion of the race to the bottom. The race to the bottom, where the developing world or the underdeveloped world, scrambles for investment potential from the developed countries in order to improve or perhaps enhance their own economic development. Now, the developing world and the underdeveloped countries are faced with a number of critical questions. How do they move towards accelerated economic development, at the same time be a little sensitive to issues of environmental sustainability? And it is increasingly very common to hear a lot of political scientists and also politicians say that the developing world and the underdeveloped world perhaps cannot necessarily be conscious of the luxuries of environmental protection. And of course, that is a controversy. Can a country that is saddled with high levels of poverty, be also saddled with their, with the demands of maintaining their forests and reusable energy and that kind of thing? So what I thought perhaps was that this very particular question has been answered in a number of ways. And therefore, when I'm thinking about exactly how it has been answered, the developing world and the underdeveloped countries have posed a few questions, or have posed a few demands to the developing world, to the developed countries, sorry, those underdeveloped, developing, very confusing. One of the key demands that these underdeveloped countries and the developing world have posed is that they need perhaps increased aid to offset the costs of going green, if I should say. And so they're trying to argue that if we are going to cut back on our emissions, if we are going to have to perhaps introduce new technologies that are going to be environmentally friendly, then it's going to be very costly. So how are we going to be able to do that? Is by requesting more aid, maybe financially or technologically, in order to try and offset that particular cost. This was a particular demand that was posed at the Rio Art Summit. The other demand they put together was the fact that they needed free and cheap technology. Perhaps cheap in the context that if they're going to buy it, it has to be very cheap, so that they're able to, have the green technology that is, environmentally friendly, but also not be able to, to break the bank to get that particular technology. And perhaps the third demand that they put together was that they needed. Yes, the other one was that perhaps we should be left alone to be able to pursue accelerated economic development, and then we pursue environmental sustainability later. So to some of the other leaders or political leaders of these particular countries, we're saying, look, we are sensitive to the issues of environmental sustainability, but you guys up in the developed world, you actually perhaps first develop to a particular level before you turn if you did at all, turn your sensitivities to environmental sustainability. This is a question that China, to some extent, did pause. Brazil and India have also been pushing, in a way, this very notion that, okay, we are partly, sensitive to the issues of sustainable, sustainable environment, but also, most importantly, we need to accelerate our development and growth because we are poor and we need to lift a lot of our people out of poverty. So implicitly they're saying, to some extent, why don't you leave us alone until we achieve a level of economic development and growth, and there we attend to the luxuries of environmental protection later. The other, perhaps, words that are, they're trying to deal with the pollution permits, tradable pollution permits that they're supposed to sell carbon emissions or something. Now, my particular commentary here perhaps comes from the lessons that the University of Nottingham, China, is trying to show the world. And what we have here comes from the Institute of Sustainable Development at Nottingham University. It is a very new institute. Now, this particular institute is this very particular institute here has tried to use a number of, has tried to come up with, and I don't want to call it ingenious, but rather has come up with a way in order to contribute to technology transfer in China, but also trying to use itself as a base for transferring this particular technology, green technology, to our local partners in Zhejiang province and beyond. Now, this particular institute that you could see, some people would think it's something like a spaceship, is that it kind of helps to generate its own energy. Now, when you look at the paneling that it has, it is that this particular paneling is energy saving in order to create to follow that whole concept of sustainable development. The next, when you look at these are panels down at the bottom where you have up there what you would call the solar panels at the bottom here help to generate the energy that the building uses, and also it recycles its own water. So it's a very green project that we have. And why we have this particular project is, in essence, not only to develop the idea that the Western world, in particular University of Nottingham in Britain, has helped with its partner in China to transfer technology and knowledge know-how to China. So in a way, these are the lessons that the West is trying to transfer to the East in the context of that, yes, we can be partners and this is the way we can. It's not necessarily a race to the bottom. It's not necessarily that you have to pursue environmentally unfriendly policies, but rather you can have it both ways. So those were just a few of the ideas that I came up with. As I said, you'll forgive me if my presentation of my ideas are wayward, but I thought I should say something if all it makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much.